Hey guys, Richard here with CRG Games, and welcome back to part 3 of our complete TCG selling guide online. And today we are covering prepping your inventory. And just note, we haven't even gotten to which platform you're going to select. So we're still on prepping your inventory. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by going to crggamesllc.com and buying a couple booster packs. I get those out super quick, and I always include some extras with it as well. So let's get into it. All right, prepping your inventory. We're going to start with condition. And conditioning your cards, notice I'm not saying grading, I'm conditioning the cards, is super important because when you send these in, your buyer is going to immediately figure out, hey, does this card meet my expectations if you didn't post it with a photo? Does it meet my expectations? Is it near mint? Is it LP? Whatever. So you need to make sure that you condition your cards correctly. So we're going to take a look at some different examples that I took photos of, and we're going to go over each one. So we're going to start out with near mint. Most of the cards that I list are near mint because I crack boxes and they come out near mint, luckily. If you're buying collections, you may have a whole large variety of grades of cards. So most of them are going to be near mint. In this case, you can see this owl bear here. I tried to crop it as well as possible, but it's pack fresh. I pulled this directly out of a pack, so the corners are fine. The surface quality is good. All of these descriptions, by the way, are taken from the TCG Player Conditioning Guide. So at most, it can have a slight defect, such as a scratch, a scuff, indentation, or slight edge wear. If you get them pack fresh, they shouldn't have any of that. So this one is near mint. Next, we've got a Bone Horde. This is a Commander 2015 Bone Horde, and I conditioned this as LP. As you can see, the card here is mostly fine. There's not a lot of scratches or indentations or scuffs. You can see a little bit of maybe sleeve play here in the bottom right hand corner. A very minor nick in the top, right there and right there. This card would be conditioned as an LP. All the corners are good, the edges are mostly all okay, and the surface is pretty good too. Most of the cards that you sell are probably going to be between near mint and LP, with used cards being more heavily skewed towards LP. And according to TCG Player, an LP card at most can have minor defects such as a scratch, a scuff, indentation, play dirt, bend, or edge wear. If you ask me, play dirt pretty much makes a card damaged. Cards with play dirt on them, I usually just scrap them. I don't use them. I try not to play with them, and I don't sell them either. So it says, TCG Player says, you can have slight play dirt, but I would recommend if you have a card that has play dirt on it, and you'll know play dirt. Everybody's seen cards with play dirt on them. They're those little like black spots and stuff. Stay away from those. More often than not, if you ask me, a buyer's going to get that. They're going to say, hey, this card is damaged, and then they're going to ask you for a refund. Just avoid that. Save yourself time, save yourself hassle, or just mark it damaged or list it with a photo. That'll save you all of the problems because the buyer will see the card before they purchase it. Next, we've got moderate play. So, moderate play is defined as a card that shows significant signs of handling or play. I have a Clockwork Dragon here that fits that bill. It says at most it can have moderate defects such as scratches, scuffs, indentation, play dirt, bending, surface wear, or edge wear. I would condition this card moderate play. We do have some scuffs. The corners are generally okay. We've got, a little bit larger nick here, and then we got maybe a little spot here or there on the edge. This corner has a slight bit of wear, and there's a little bit of scuffing. So in general, this card isn't all that bad. I consider it a moderate play. Once you start getting into the lower grades, like a low LP, moderate play, or heavily played, buyer discretion usually takes over, because what I might see as a moderately played card, somebody else might see as a heavily played card. That's why it's very important to follow the conditioning guides, because in the chance that, let's say you send out a near mint card or an LP card and someone says, hey, this is definitely heavily played, if you follow the conditioning guides, TCG player should be able to rule on your side. I believe, I have never done this. I would think maybe that a buyer, if they're saying, hey, this is heavily played or damaged, they're going to have to send in a photo to TCG player, and then TCG player will decide. So follow the guides as good as possible. Next, we've got heavily played. As you can see, this Beast of Burden is definitely heavily played. It's got some play dirt on it. You'll see these like dark spots. That's play dirt. The edge wear is pretty moderate here. The surface is faded. There's not really a ton of scratches on it, but there are some scuffs right up in this area. And they're saying that a heavily played, and I do have a typo here, this should be HP, can have major defects such as scratches, scuffs, indentation, play dirt, bending, surface wear, or edge wear. When it comes to bending, I don't necessarily consider those to be like a normal grade. I would consider bent cards to be damaged, but I guess it depends. If it's creased, it's 100% damaged. If it has a little bit of a bend to it, maybe it's considered heavily played or moderately played. Just be very careful when you're dealing with cards that are bent. And that actually does include new foils that are bent. TCG player did, at some point, I don't know exactly when it was, but they did adjust their conditioning guide to take into account curved foils. And they have to have like a certain curvature. I believe they have to, if you lay them down, they have to stand no more than a certain height to be, considered whatever grade you would consider them, like a near mint. And then you've got damaged. So I don't have a lot of damaged cards, so I had to damage this card for an example. I took my my packing knife and I scratched it up. I bent the corner down there. I scuffed up the edges. Cards are surprisingly resilient, I will say that. So, and this should actually say damaged as well. I did a lot of copying and pasting when I did this to save a little bit of time, because most of it's the same in this section. But you'll see here that we've got deep scratches along the surface. There's a major crease in this corner. The edge wear is basically all around the entire card, and it does have a lot of surface scuffing. So this is damaged. If you come across a damaged card, you should be able to pretty easily tell that it's damaged and not confuse it for anything else. So I believe, okay, so I do have one more section here for foiling. So this, I don't remember which card this is. It is a foil from Scourge. And you'll notice this on a lot of old foils, that you have clouding. You need to make sure that if you sell a foil, especially older ones, at a certain condition, that you take into account surface clouding. And you'll see in this example, I zoomed in pretty heavy there. You can see these sections here, they appear to have almost a texture to them. That's where maybe they've been rubbed across a table, or they've spent a lot of their time single sleeved. And just over time, the sleeve coming in contact with the foiling layer will wear it down, and you'll get clouding there. This one was a pretty heavy example of it. It's kind of hard to actually get the clouding to show up in a camera, but you'll know clouding when you see it. So just make sure, especially on older foils, that you take clouding into account. Buyers like myself, I buy a lot of old border foils for my collection, and I'm very, very particular about clouding. The first thing I do when I take an old border foil out of the sleeve is I hold it up to the light. I turn it at different angles to try to figure out how bad is this thing clouded. And every once in a while, you get some that are really nice. You will usually be able to easily see clouding in the borders if it's a black border well, they're all black border foils, I believe. The black border will show clouding very readily, and you'll notice because it'll go from a deep black to start reflecting off of the clouding there. The next section is prepping your inventory as far as putting it in boxes and stuff. And here's a nice little example that I pulled online of somebody that's got like every single card in snap cases. This isn't necessarily a bad idea if you don't have like maybe a ton of inventory, but you have a lot of inventory that's at least $1 or more, and you have a bunch of examples of each one. Doing this way would cost you a lot of money though, so I do not do this at all. The first thing you're going to want to do is get a sorting tray. Now, there's several on the market, but the only piece of equipment you actually need to start prepping your inventory is a sorting tray. This one's a BCW card sorting tray. It's kind of nice. They're a little bit on the thin side, so they're best when you're not actually moving them around a ton. But they've got these nice little section over here. It's got this little nice section here, and it's got enough spots. It's got 20 spots here to where you can hold, most of the cards from a set and then put other stuff here. So the way I do it is I start sorting the cards by condition first. I pull out everything that's not near mint because most of the cards that I deal with are near mint, and that's because I do TCG Direct. But start sorting by condition, put those in separate piles. The next you're going to do is sort it by set. So if you just bought like a bulk collection, you're going to pull out all the Streets of New Capennas, and you're going to pull out all the Neon Dynasties and put those together before you do anything. And then you're going to take all of the cards from that set and you're going to start sorting them alphabetically, A through Z. And then after that, you're going to get all of the cards with the same name together, and then you're going to, again, put them alphabetically, right? Because at first when you do it, you're going to have like different A's together, but then you get all the same copies of a card together. I used to do it as color. Don't do that. TCG Player, they don't do that. You don't do that. It's not worth it. It doesn't save you any time. It actually costs you time, and that means money. All right. After you've got those cards sorted, for example, you're going to need to store those in a box. And on page 6 through 9, I've got the different size boxes that I recommend. The 3-row and the 5-row monster storage box, those are going to be your best friends. I'd recommend picking up mostly those boxes. Store them alphabetically. So what I do is I start either on the left or right. It really doesn't matter. And I usually start at the front. So my A's will go in the front, the left-hand side, and then I'll just fill back A through, usually like K, and then, so on and so forth until you fill up the entire box. 5-row should hold about 5,000 to 7,000 cards. 3-row, about 3 to 4,200. The other thing you're going to need a bunch of are BCW dividers, or any dividers that you can use to divide the cards alphabetically. So all the A's, the B's, the C's, and so on and so forth. I've actually purchased, I'll show you here. All right, so on Amazon, I had to stretch for that. I pick up these generic dividers. They're actually not plastic. These are just made out of a thicker cardboard. They're made for horizontal storage of cards, but they work just fine vertically as well, either this way or this way. I really like these. I think they're about $10 probably about $20 for 1,000, somewhere in that range. BCW dividers are relatively similar, maybe a little bit more. I probably will be offering those on my website at some point because I can buy in bulk and offer them to everybody at a steep discount. Until then, you can get 10% off your order by using the BCW link in the description. So what you want to do is you want to place your divider in between each individual section of cards A through Z. If you have like a lot, like if you have like 50 to 100 copies of each card, it might actually be worth it at that point to put your divider in between every individual unique card. So like all the A's of this card will go together, and then all the A's of the next card will go together. Put a divider in each one. I don't do that because these things aren't cheap and they ain't free. So I wouldn't recommend doing that, but you definitely can. The dead space in between, right? If you don't fill up an entire row, the dead space, BCW makes these like foam inserts that you can use to take up that dead space, and that keeps your cards from like falling down and getting all over the place. Those work okay. However, I did a video at some point not too long ago about using foam acoustic dampening panels. And if you get the ones that are like roughly 2 inches in height, you can just cut 3 sections out, right? Each one has like 12, and then you get 3 out of each one. Those are perfect, and they're significantly cheaper. I would use those. Next, we've got storing your boxes. So the boxes are freaking heavy. I use metal racks. I started out with like these plastic racks. You can get them at Walmart. They're usually like anywhere from $50 to $100. However, you got to be mindful of what size boxes you use. And this is something I didn't know at first, and I found out quickly when I could not put 2 5-row BCW Super Monster storage boxes side to side. I can only put a 5 and a 3-row. I prefer to have the 5 rows next to each other, all together, because the faster you can pull those cards out to ship them out, the more time you'll save and the more money you'll save and the more money you'll make. So I would probably lean more towards like building your own right here. You can go to Lowe's and get some 2x4s. I haven't checked lumber prices in a while, but get some 2x4s, get some metal brackets, a couple sheets of plywood, make your own, because then you can determine exactly what size you need. You can paint it and do all kinds of fancy stuff and make it fun. Whereas these, they have the benefit of being light, movable, but you'll notice once you start getting a lot of cards on these shelves, they bend and they just look like crap. I've never seen one break. Not that they couldn't. Over time, plastics do get weaker. So I would recommend building your own, or you can get like one of these metal racks. And I use metal racks now. There's the round ones with the round posts, and there's ones with angles. If you get the ones with the angled posts and the slots to where you can adjust the height of the shelves, those are the ones I would recommend you get. Walmart has some at pretty decent prices. You need to make sure that they're at least 18 inches in depth, and just measure, get the width of how many boxes you're going to be wanting to put side by side, and make sure that you determine the correct height as well. Most of them are usually like 60 to 72 inches, between 5 and 6 feet. Just make sure you get a rack that's not too tall for you. Usually I'll have my boxes, from the bottom to the second to the top shelf, for example. And then the top shelf, I'll use that for storage supplies. So all like my empty boxes, I stack those to the ceiling. And I have 9-foot ceilings, so I can stack them super high. But, not everybody has 9-foot ceilings, I guess. Long story short, best recommendation, build your own. Second recommendation, get storage racks, maybe from Walmart or Lowe's that have angle posts with slots in them, so that they look like little keyways, so you can adjust the height of your shelves, and you can get the full width of the shelf. That's the most important part, getting the full width. And then lastly, I would do like one of these. If you're on a budget, these work fine. Just make sure you get the right width for the boxes that you'll be using. And then now that you've presumably got all your cards sorted, you've got them all conditioned, you've got them all put into boxes, and you got them all put on your shelf, what's next? Well, that's going to be picking your platform. That's going to be for the next part. I hope you guys did enjoy and hope you learned something. I'm trying to make sure that I tell you all the things that didn't work for me, so you don't make those mistakes and you don't have to buy like multiple things, because now I've got like my metal shelves and my plastic shelves. It's just, you don't have to make the mistakes. Just listen to what I'm telling you and everything should work out pretty fine. So tune in next time for the next video. We're going to talk about the different platforms that you can sell on, some of the pros and cons, and then we'll go on from there. This is going to focus on TCG Player, but I want to talk about the other ones as well. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you'd like to support the channel, crggamesllc.com. Pick up a pack or two, and let's get cracking. Until next time, I'll catch you later.